It's time to get nerdy, y'all.
A little bit of gaming history for you.
Something relevant in gaming and discuss our opinions on it.
Should we kick it out of here, or should we kick-start it?
This is the part where you, the listeners, try to stump the hosts.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, lads and lasses of all ages, welcome to the show. It is Monday, May 19th, 2025, and it is time to get nerdy. Welcome to episode 343 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest gaming podcast in the multiverse. I am Maction, one of your hosts, and I am joined by a special guest host, a returning friend, a Wilhelm Shakespeare. Wilhelm Shakespeare.
What's up?
Starting out spicy, I see.
Yeah, I'm trying to be like the villain of the podcast.
Well, if you're going to be the villain, maybe I should give you the other reading role in this case. Because we're going to do things just a little bit different as a result of some of the stuff that we talked about in episode 341. We talked about some of the Epic v. Apple stuff, and it had been coming up in conversation, and there's also a thing from SAG-AFTRA against Epic that's going on right now. Epic is very much hot right now for reasons that you don't want to be thought of. But I thought it was worth maybe going back and looking at some of their greatest hits, and by greatest hits, why not the $500 million that they had to pay to the FTC a couple of years back for reasons that none of us ever read, let's face it. But I thought maybe we should go through the settlement agreement, or at least what we publicly know about it, and Wilhelm Shakespeare was kind enough to agree to do that. So it'll be a little bit different, but hopefully still fun tonight. However, we can't dispense with all ceremony.
That would be chaos.
That would be chaos. So we usually start by saying what we've been up to or any exciting things from the past week or so. Wilhelm, you want to start? Otherwise, I've had some stuff to share as well.
I have been... What have I been up to? Nothing and everything, my friend. A 10 zillion projects, 10 zillion hours of lying on my bed playing solitaire.
Solitaire?
Yeah,
That's old school.
Yeah, it's Spider Solitaire, technically.
Oh, so slightly newer then.
Slightly newer. I don't know what is going on in my brain. I think it's one of those like easy dopamine hits, and I won't let myself download Candy Crush for my own good.
That's good choice.
So I will put on a podcast or an album, and I will play Spider Solitaire until I know that I cannot put off my responsibilities any longer.
Well, I had two really interesting things happen this last week that I want to share with you, Wilhelm. And the first one is that I had to go basically a full week without my spouse around, and the first couple of days were especially rough because ever since probably 2019 or so, I have had increasingly more and more of my life has friends that I can get together remotely with, whether that's GURPS or D&D that I do via Discord, or book clubs that I'm doing online, things like that. Anyway, the first 3 or 4 days of that separation, I was very much like all of my friends canceled on me, which I get it, life gets complicated and whatever, but that just meant I was expecting some friend hangout time and got none of it. Which was a little sad.
So you were frustrated in multiple ways. You got Discord blocked, as it were.
I did indeed, but it didn't take too long. Folk, came back around. We did the usual things, and then of course my spouse came back at the end of the week, and it was great to have them back. The other very interesting thing was. And, just for anybody who hasn't heard me talk about how I'm in the middle of nowhere and they send the data packets for the internet in on the backs of cows, I, honest to goodness, looking out my window just to the side here, saw a baby black bear.
Oh my God.
It was probably 150, 250 pounds, somewhere in that region, but it comes down the road, the path right here next to me, looks at me and just gives me this look that I can only interpret as, what you gonna do about it? And then turns into the into the woods. It was yeah. So this is why we have an indoor cat and not an outdoor cat.
So you can continue to have a cat and not simply feed the local bear population.
It's true. They say don't feed the wildlife for a variety of reasons. Anyway, yeah. So those are just some interesting things going on.
That's amazing.
Thanks for saying so, and thanks for sharing, Wilhelm. So what do you say we get right into this FTC v Epic thing?
Let's roll back the clock.
Yes.
To the faraway land.
Yes.
Back when the FTC actually did its job.
Hey, I 100% agree with you. All the way back to December of 2022. But just before we get started on our amazing adventure of the Dueling Opinions, this is a sound test episode 343, which means that we have an old mystery sound that is going to be sunset, and we can finally reveal the secret mystery sound from episode number 303. But first, Wilhelm Shakespeare, I want to give you a last bite at the apple.
Is someone there?
Okay.
Any guesses? This is the final guess.
This sounds like one of those sound cues that a guard would have after you do like a sneak behind a bush. Mm-hmm. So I don't know any games that have that as a mechanic. So I'm gonna...
You are frighteningly close. Like, I mean, it is spooky.
What? Okay, I'm like thinking like, what are games my brother plays? Is it Fallout?
It is not Fallout.
No, that was my guess.
All right, it is from Splinter Cell.
Never heard of it.
It's a rather famous game in that sort of stealth genre. This is from the Splinter Cell on the Nintendo DS. You were crazy close, because this absolutely is the kind of thing that when you're trying to sneak, they'll be like, oh, is someone there? As they come around a corner when you make noise. It's your instincts.
Yeah.
Absolutely spot on.
That is only a thing that I know because gamers will make fun of it online and make like parody videos on TikTok and stuff.
In this case, TikTok has given you some good, solid information.
Well, TikToks that have been reposted to Instagram and YouTube.
Ah, sure. Well, now we have the distinct honor of bringing a new mystery sound here for episode 343. And if you happen to know what this new mystery sound is, remember, you can reach out to us on social media and otherwise let us know that you're guessing episode 343's mystery sound. And if you do so successfully, we will send a prize handmade by me to your door. So listen up.
Who wants to be a millionaire? Me, actually.
Yes, this sound is indeed from a video game.
It sounds like, do you know that like indie animator who has those grubby looking animations where it's like a witch on Tinder and she's just like, oh, I'm going to go on a date, and then her friend is like, oh, these pictures are 100 years old, and she's just like, that's what I looked like when I was at my best. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, are you sure you didn't dream this?
This is the best YouTube video anyone has ever made. This is the best animation. It's so funny. A witch goes on a Tinder date. I'll send it to you later.
Okay, perfect. Well, if anybody recognizes that sound, you know what to do. All right, now with that funny business out of the way, let's get serious. Let's talk about Epic and the FTC.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now, we're going to have a little sort of dueling, accounts here, because on the one hand, there's the FTC that's going to say something, and Wilhelm has graciously agreed to play the part of the good guy.
Temporarily.
Yes. After this, you'll immediately go back to that big heel energy. And then I'll go ahead and I'll read what Epic has to say about each of these, and I'll try not to editorialize too much. But I think it'll be a fun exercise to see just the differences in what these two parties say about the agreement they came to. Wilhelm, take it away.
Me.
Oh, Perfection.
The Federal Trade Commission has secured agreements requiring Epic Games Incorporated, creator of the popular video game Fortnite, to pay a total of $520 million in relief over allegations the company violated the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA, and deployed design tricks known as dark patterns to dupe millions of players into making unintentional purchases. Just a quick aside, I love that this is a legal document that has the word dupe in it.
Oh, yes. Oh, there's some good... I don't want to spoil anything.
I didn't read this technically. I did have the computer do its like auto read thing while I vaguely listened while playing Spider Solitaire on my phone.
Ah, it's all coming full circle.
Continuing the quote. The FTC's action against Epic involves two separate record-breaking settlements. As part of a proposed federal court order filed by the Department of Justice on behalf of the FTC, Epic will pay a $275 million monetary penalty for violating the COPPA rule, the largest penalty ever obtained for violating an FTC rule. Additionally, in a first-of-its-kind provision, Epic will be required to adopt strong privacy default settings for children and teens, ensuring that voice and text communications are turned off by default. Under a separate proposed administrative order, Epic will pay $245 million to refund customers for its dark patterns and billing practices, which is the FTC's largest refund amount in a gaming case and its largest administrative order in history.
Epic is setting all sorts of records.
I will just say I feel like this document feels very proud of itself. It's just like,
well, I mean, wouldn't you be proud of yourself? If it's like, this is the largest amount of money that, and keep in mind, Epic agreed to settle this. Epic was just like, yes, we will pay the most money everybody in the history of ever has ever paid the FTC. Yep, you got it.
Before going to court.
Yep.
Quote, as our complaints note, Epic used privacy-invasive default settings and deceptive interfaces that tricked Fortnite users, including teenagers and children, said FTC Chair Lena M. Khan. Quote, protecting the public, and especially children, from online privacy invasions and dark patterns is a top priority for the Commission, and these enforcement actions make clear to businesses that the FTC is cracking down on these unlawful practices. Unquote. New quote. The Justice Department takes very seriously its mission to protect consumers' data privacy rights, said Associate Attorney General Vanita Gupta. This proposed order sends a message to all online providers that collecting children's personal information without parental consent will not be tolerated. End quote. Epic video games Fortnite is generally free to download and play, but charges users for in-game items such as costumes and dance moves. The game has more than 400 million users worldwide. The FTC alleged in two separate complaints that North Carolina-based Epic engaged in several unlawful practices. Can I just say, after all of the truly cruel and unusual things that are happening coming from Silicon Valley, it is heartwarming to know that North Carolina is actually able to put in its own ridiculously immoral practices.
Absolutely.
It's not just for California.
North Carolina said, oh, Silicon Valley? Hold my beer.
Quote, Epic put children and teens at risk through its lax privacy practices and cost customers millions in illegal charges through its use of dark patterns, said Samuel Levine, director of the FTC's Bureau of Consumer Protection. Under the proposed orders announced today, the company will be required to change its default settings, return millions to consumers, and pay a record-breaking penalty for its privacy abuses. End quote.
All right. And so Epic has a slightly different take as their introduction, because at the same time that the FTC put out that statement, and there's more to it, Epic had its own preamble, which I shall read for you now. Epic has reached a settlement with the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. In it, Epic will pay $245 million to the FTC to resolve concerns related to past designs of the Fortnite item shop and refund systems in Fortnite, which the FTC will use to distribute to Epic customers at their discretion. Epic will also pay $275 million to the FTC to resolve concerns related to children's privacy in Fortnite. No developer creates a game with the intention of ending up here. The video game industry is a place of fast-moving innovation where player expectations are high and new ideas are paramount. Statutes written decades ago don't specify how gaming ecosystems should operate. The laws have not changed, but their application has evolved, and long-standing industry practices are no longer enough. We accepted this agreement because we want Epic to be at the forefront of consumer protection and provide the best experience for our players. Over the past few years, we've been making changes to ensure our ecosystem meets the expectations of our players and regulators, which we hope will be a helpful guide for others in the industry. Much shorter, but I love how, oh my gosh, we agreed. You know why we agreed to this? Because we're pushing the boundaries in a good way, in a respectable way.
We are paying $275 million
out of the goodness of our heart.
because we're pioneers.
Pioneers, yes. We wanted to be the best, so we paid the FTC the most that they've ever been paid in their lives. How does that strike you, Silicon Valley? North Carolina, what? Go
what?
fighting land crabs. Pretty sure land crabs are someplace else, but it works.
Absolutely not. I don't know anything about North Carolina, but I feel like I would know if they had fighting land crabs.
Listeners, let us know if you know if the land crabs are somewhere in North Carolina, high school, collegiate, or otherwise. You let us know.
Yes. I will say, I true props to Epic's statement here for being so vague. Because it's like they're really speaking to their audience. They're like, hey, the video game industry moves so fast. And laws move so slow. And it's so like slow. Those two things are true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Statutes written decades ago don't explicitly explain to us how we're supposed to not commit crimes. So,
But you know what? We are happy to be a guide for others. If they can see how generous we are in following.
This has very much the vibe of Popular from Wicked.
Popular. Oh my goodness, how dare you? This does not have the vibe of Popular. Glinda would never.
Really?
At least, well, not first act Glinda. Oh my goodness, I super want to write a version of Popular now that is about breaking the law.
Absolutely. The people demand. Well, I will admit, at this point, we do change a little bit because the Fortnite the Epic statement and the FTC statement don't specifically track one-to-one. So I'm going to, I've shifted some of the Epic statement to follow in line so that after you talk about privacy violations, then I'll share their statements on privacy violations as well, because they structured it sort of flip-flop, but it's all good.
Epic would not want to structure their statement to be in any way aligned with the legal statement that proves how freaking guilty they are.
I'm inclined to agree with you.
So, privacy violations. In a complaint filed in federal court, the FTC alleged that Epic violated the COPPA rule by collecting personal information from children under 13 who played Fortnite, a child-directed online service, without notifying their parents or obtaining their parents' verifiable consent. Epic also violated the FTC's Act's prohibition against unfair practices by enabling real-time voice and text chat communications for children and teens by default. Specifically, the FTC alleged that Epic violated COPPA by failing to notify parents, obtain consent. The FTC alleged that Epic was aware that many children were playing Fortnite, as shown through surveys of Fortnite users, the licensing and marketing of Fortnite toys and merchandise, player support, and other company communications, and collected personal data from children without first obtaining parents' verifiable consent. The company also required parents who requested that their children's personal information be deleted to jump through unreasonable hoops, and sometimes failed to honor such requests. Default settings harm children and teens. Epic's settings enable live on by default text and voice communications for users. The FTC alleges that these default settings, along with Epic's role in matching children and teens with strangers to play Fortnite together, harmed children and teens. Children and teens have been bullied, threatened, harassed, and exposed to dangerous and psychologically traumatizing issues such as suicide while on Fortnite. Epic employees expressed concern about its default settings. As early as 2017, Epic employees urged the company to change the default settings to require users to opt in for voice chat, citing concern about the impact on children in particular. Despite this, and reports that children had been harassed, including sexually, while playing the game, the company resisted turning off the default settings. And while it eventually added a button allowing users to turn voice chat off, Epic made it difficult for users to find, according to the complaint. In addition to paying the record civil penalty, which goes to the U.S. Treasury for violating the COPA rule, the proposed federal court order will prohibit Epic from enabling voice and text communications for children and teens unless parents of users under 13 or teenage users or their parents provide their affirmative consent through a privacy setting. Epic must delete personal information previously collected from Fortnite users in violation of the COPA rules parental notice and consent requirements unless the company obtains parental consent to retain such data or the user identifies as 13 or older through a neutral age gate. In addition, Epic must establish a comprehensive privacy program that addresses the problems identified in the FTC's complaint and obtain regular independent audits. The commission voted 4-0 to refer the civil penalty complaint and proposed federal order to the Department of Justice. The DOJ filed the complaint and stipulated order in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of North Carolina. Commissioner Christine S. Wilson issued a separate statement.
And here we have Nerd Next Door to read Christina S. I'm sorry. No, that would be great. But we could not spring for more than one guest in an evening.
Tight budget.
Tight budget. So this is what Epic had to say about children's privacy. Developers who create teen-rated or mature-rated games can no longer assume that it won't be deemed to be directed to children, according to the United States Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPA. Younger players who are interested in higher-rated games can find ways to access them. Developers should proactively create age-appropriate ways for players to enjoy their games. Fortnite is rated teen and is directed at older teen and college-aged audiences. We recently rolled out cabined accounts as a new type of Epic account that provides a tailored experience that is safe and inclusive for younger players. Players under 13, or their country's age of digital consent, whichever is higher, will be able to play Fortnite while they wait for parental consent, but in a tailored environment where certain features such as chat and purchasing are disabled. While game developers may be familiar with COPA, they may not be aware of its global application. COPA is just one of the many regulations addressing children's privacy around the world, which are expanding to include teens. This means game developers should expand youth privacy protections to include players under 18. In September, we implemented high privacy default settings for players under the age of 18. Chat now defaults to nobody, and profile details are set to hidden. Parties default to invite only, and personalized recommendations are defaulted off. Players under 16 also have the mature filter defaulted on for text chat. So, obviously, they don't have a lot to say about children's privacy, except for, I mean, look at these kids these days. You can't stop them from, from wanting to play these games. I do love how they don't address whatsoever the stuff like, oh, yeah, no, in 2017, your own internal documents show your employees saying, hey, guys, I don't think it's a good idea for us to have this voice and text chat on by default for children. 2017!
Maction.
But
This isn't about that.
Oh,
this is about how much they value children's privacy and
You're
how
right.
they don't think that other game companies
Uh-huh.
understand how important children's privacy is.
Mm-hmm.
And really, other game companies need to be thinking about this kind of stuff.
You are right. I lost the thread. This is about how forward thinking they are. And this is the advice, the roadmap that they're helping us all see what we should do in the future. You're right, Wilhelm Shakespeare. Thank you for setting me straight.
Can I just say, when they said that youth protections are expanding to include teens, all I was thinking was, oh my goodness, and I hope one day privacy laws can extend to adults.
Oh, wouldn't that just be the dream? Someday, Wilhelm, someday.
On to illegal dark patterns.
Ooh, sounds fun.
In a separate administrative complaint, the FTC alleged that Epic used dark patterns to trick players into making unwanted purchases and let children rack up unauthorized charges without any parental involvement. The complaint alleged that Epic, A, used dark patterns to trick users into making purchases. The company has deployed a variety of dark patterns aimed at getting consumers of all ages to make unintended in-game purchases. Fortnite's counterintuitive, inconsistent, and confusing button configuration led players to incur unwanted charges based on the press of a single button. For example, players could be charged while attempting to wake the game from sleep mode while the game was in a loading screen, or by pressing an adjacent button while attempting simply to preview an item. These tactics led to hundreds of millions of dollars in unauthorized charges for consumers. B. Charged account holders without authorization. Children and other users who play Fortnite can purchase in-game content such as cosmetics and battle passes using Fortnite's V-Bucks. Up until 2018, Epic allowed children to purchase V-Bucks by simply pressing buttons without requiring any parental or cardholder action or consent. Some parents complained that their children had racked up hundreds of dollars in charges before they realized Epic had charged their credit card without their consent. The FTC has brought similar claims against companies such as Amazon, Apple, and Google for billing consumers millions of dollars for in-app purchases made by children while playing mobile app games without obtaining their parents' consent. C. Blocked access to purchased content. The FTC alleged that Epic locked the accounts of customers who disputed unauthorized charges with their credit card companies. Consumers whose accounts have been locked lose access to all the content they have purchased, which can total thousands of dollars. Even when Epic agreed to unlock an account, consumers were warned that they could be banned for life if they disputed any future charges.
Woof.
Listen, tricking people into making unauthorized purchases is bad enough, but then locking them out of their account so they can't even use the freaking thing that you tricked them into paying money for?
Hey, we got ours. Sorry.
Unbelievable.
I'll wait my turn.
Like, you said that in character, we got ours.
Yeah, no, that's why I gotta wait my turn.
Epic ignored more than 1 million user complaints and repeated employee concerns that huge numbers of users were being wrongfully charged. In fact, Epic's changes only made the problem worse, the FTC alleged. Using internal testing, Epic purposefully obscured cancel and refund features to make them more difficult to find. As part of the proposed administrative order with the FTC over the company's unlawful billing practices, Epic must pay $245 million, which will be used to provide refunds to customers. In addition, the order prohibits Epic from charging consumers through the use of dark patterns or from otherwise charging consumers without obtaining their affirmative consent. The order also bars Epic from blocking consumers from accessing their accounts for disputing unauthorized charges.
Oh, well, that's nice of them. I do like how even in the FTC, this is their own statement, but they'll talk about, they won't be like, they'll be like, the FTC alleges, or this,
Yeah, the fact that it just says alleges in the legal statement. It's just like, we are being clear that this was an allegement. It technically did not go to court because this is a settlement.
Yep. One of the reasons Mac hates settlements is because there's always this stuff at the end. It's just like, well, nobody admits to wrongdoing, but
nobody admits to wrongdoing, which is what's so great about a settlement, and it's so. It really gives you a lot of wiggle room, I think, which is narratively, from a narrative standpoint, super great. You could say whatever. Sure. You could say a lot of stuff and still be within the settlement.
It's true. Let's see what they did with their wiggle room here on the subject of payment systems.
Wiggle.
I wonder how good this is going to be. From Epic. All game developers should rethink steps they've taken to simplify payment flows in favor of practices that provide the largest amount of clarity to players when they make purchase decisions. Saving payment information by default is a common way to streamline the checkout process, so players do not have to re-enter their payment method every time they make a purchase. We've agreed with the FTC to change this practice, and we now offer an explicit yes or no choice to save payment information. Pushing a button to complete a purchase is one of the most commonly used and easiest mechanics to complete online purchases. Games should go above and beyond to make sure players even more clearly understand when they are making a purchase with real money or with virtual currencies to prevent accidental purchases. We don't want players to pay for something that they did not intend to. Since May 2018, Fortnite has had a refund token system and an undo purchase system. But now, we've gone further. We've updated our payment flows with a hold to purchase mechanic that reconfirms a player's intent to buy as an additional safeguard to prevent unintended purchases alongside instant purchase cancellations and self-service refunds. There are many ways players may seek to refund purchases. Developers should consider avenues for players to request refunds that lie outside the standard practices. If a cardholder sees an unauthorized transaction on their statement, they may report it to their bank to have it reversed. When that chargeback is initiated, it is common industry practice to disable the associated account as a fraud prevention measure. We've updated our chargeback policy to account for non-fraud related scenarios that we will only disable accounts when fraud indicators are present. We've restored thousands of accounts that were banned due to reported chargebacks under our previous policy. I do love how they're like, yeah, no big deal. Maybe we've had to restore thousands of accounts that we've banned because they disputed charges. It's great.
It's fun. The amount of PR people that must have gone through to make this is like, it's like this is what they're spending all that money they stole on.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, I'm going to give their final thoughts, Epic Games' final thoughts on this, and then I want to ask you the question. We know how much they're paying. They're paying more than $500 million back to the FTC. At the end, I kind of want us to take our best guess. We'll never know, but I want to take our best guess at how much money we think they pocketed. So here come their final thoughts. The old status quo for in-game commerce and privacy has changed. and many developer practices should be reconsidered. We share the underlying principles of fairness, transparency, and privacy that the FTC enforces, and the practices referred to in the FTC's complaints are not how Fortnite operates. We will continue to be upfront about what players can expect when making purchases, ensure cancellations and refunds are simple, and build safeguards that help keep our ecosystem safe and fun for audiences of all ages. How you do, fellow kids?
You may clap now.
Oh, that's even better. Oh, yes. It's a bit jarring, isn't it?
It's a little bit jarring. It reminds me of when I have to take like security training for my job, where they tell you all of the security practices that you have to do in order to make sure that we don't get sued. Except that it's doing it because they got sued. They're like, oh,
Yes.
oops, okay, this has already happened, but we have to remember this is really important.
Look, we may have leaked all the data, but like this is not who we are. Sure, we've been doing this since 2017. That's half the life of our game studio, but like, but this isn't who we are. We're the good guys. And look at all this good stuff we did that since September, like 2 months before this settlement happened, we changed all these things. Look at us, guys. Aren't we at the forefront?
And the thing that makes me like genuinely sad is all of the employees who were pointing it out every step of the way. People that Epic pays to advise them and tell them, when what they're doing goes against best practices, continually spoke up, and they continue to ignore them.
Oh, yeah. And we don't have the time to really dig into it, but some of the information from the settlement is actually published. So you can read for example, the FTC's initial complaint. You can read that, and some of that, that initial complaint has some of that information attached. Like, the person in 2017 who was just like, hey guys, I think it's really damaging to kids to have it like this. I've been like, I have to mute the television in order to make it so that the voice chat isn't on. Can't we do something better than that? Stuff like that. The employees are just like, we have to do a workaround and unplug the speakers. We could do better than this, right?
It's truly an example of how if a company could, make $100 million doing everything by the book, or they could make $100,000,001 by breaking a bunch of laws, then they're gonna break a bunch of laws.
I mean, at the end of the day, if the profit motive is the only thing pushing you, then all that matters is one number's bigger than the other. Wilhelm Shakespeare, I have a question for you. They willingly paid a little bit more than $500 million in order to and agreed to this settlement, which in addition to other things included independent audits of whether or not they're doing these exact things that they said they wouldn't do anymore. Some amount of money is going to paying a small group of people to essentially be third-party check-ins every so often for the next 5 years or whatever. So they were willing to settle this for a little bit more than $500 million. For what Fortnite contends is because they want to be leaders in the industry. And what the FTC claims is they got their hands caught in the cookie jar. Obviously, it's no surprise we believe the FTC's narrative and not Epic's narrative. But how much money do you think they probably got from all this chicanery that they were willing to drop $500 million to make it go away?
I think $1.5 billion is a reasonable estimate, because I mean, if the 250 mil was for refunds, I don't think that every person who had a fraudulent charge would make an attempt to get that back, or would be in the list of people who reported it. They might be in the list, but they might not necessarily, you know, go through the rigmarole to get it. Or if it was only once or twice, then that might not actually happen. So I'm thinking probably like twice as much, maybe 1.5 times for that. And that would just be for the refunds, and then the other 225 million or whatever for privacy. That, I think, is unfortunately a very well, I mean, nowadays people's information is really the gift that keeps on giving. And so having data and using that data to manipulate advertisements, to sell to advertisers, to do a whole bunch of shady things, I think, you know, would definitely be worth that much. So yeah, that's what I would guess is probably 1.5.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable estimate. I will say that based on the most recent figures I've seen, were that the FTC has sent out refunds to the people who were charged inappropriately of about 630,000 payments.
Wow.
To gamers, and that's been about $72 million paid out. They said that the average payment is about $114 is what folks were sent. And the deadline to file that claim was January 10th of this year, so we're a little on the late side of that.
You should have done it in December.
But you know, we did talk about this when they first opened, so I don't feel like we did our audience any disservice by not mentioning it previously, because we did. You can go back, you can play the tapes. A lot of times you see like the headlines, right? You see the things, you're just like, oh, is this? But like, there's a lot more to it. And if you just had read like what Epic said about it, you would think this is all crazy, this is all just nonsense, and things. If you read what the FTC is saying about it, Epic is absolutely doing a whole bunch of nonsense and got caught. And it is something that, for sake of time, this podcast, it's a 1 hour thing, 1 hour or less, and we have to cover a lot of things, and sometimes we don't get to cover some things in as much depth as we would like or would need to, but I thank you, everybody who's listening, for listening through this read of these two dueling opinions with myself and Wilhelm Shakespeare. Hopefully you got something out of it, and the next time Epic says something about how they've done no wrong, maybe we treat it with a little bit more of a grain of salt. This will lead into legalese next time. Wilhelm, that was all that I had for today, but it wouldn't be an episode of Two Nerds in a Pod if we didn't end by sharing what we've been watching and what we've been playing. A chance to say the cool, nerdy things that we are into, and hopefully give someone there in the audience an idea for what path to start down next. If you don't mind me throwing to you, Wilhelm, what cool, nerdy stuff are you watching? What are you playing, aside from Spider Solitaire?
I don't know how you could get nerdier than Spider Solitaire.
Truth.
I'm doing the version that has black and white cards, so, you know, it's a little bit more difficult.
That's pretty intense.
I have been playing a game you actually suggested to me, Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Nice.
It's a interesting arcade / rhythm game. I feel I like it. There are parts of it that I don't like as much. It's a very it has a very intuitive type of game design where it doesn't really tell you how things are going. It just sort of builds the landscape in a way that is an attempt to guide you to where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to hit.
It can be pretty busy sometimes, though.
Yeah, it can be very busy, and what the rules of how you interact with the world are can change depending on if it's in arcade mode versus if it's in rhythm game mode. And so there are some times where it will be on arcade mode and it will have certain rules that are a little bit looser in some areas and a little bit tighter in other areas, and then it will go to rhythm game mode and it kind of switches. Specifically, I'm thinking of the high jumps that it will do. Sometimes you're driving on a motorcycle and you can jump into the air, and you don't really have to pay attention to the direction that you're in if you are on rhythm game mode, because it will just guide you however you are going through the air so that you can focus on the rhythm of it. But if you are on arcade mode, then you do have to pay attention to where you're going, because otherwise you'll drive into a cliff and then that will be bad.
Yeah, and it automatically slips you into and out of those two different modes all the time. That's a fair criticism.
Yeah, I think that it's very ambitious, and I think that it does a lot of things well. I do think that just for me, who I came off of playing the game Melatonin, which is just a rhythm game, but it also does a similar thing where it will kind of move in between modes, and it has a very intuitive type game design where the things that you have to do are based on the environment that you're in and that it's showing you. And at first I really liked Sayonara Wild Hearts because I didn't feel like it had, well, first of all, it's a rhythm game that's based off of actual music. While Melatonin will sometimes be music, it will sometimes be grunts and groans of people, it will sometimes be little clickety clacks. It's always rhythmic, but not necessarily music in a way that is interesting for sure, definitely unique. But I do think that from where I've only played like an hour, 2 hours of this game of Sayonara Wild Hearts so far. I think I'm about halfway through. So I do think that is good, but I do think that it's kind of difficult to get into the flow, which seems antithetical to what it's trying to do as a game.
Well, from my side, most of what I've been playing is a game called Gemcraft Chasing Shadows, which is an old Flash game, actually, from back in the day.
Very in character.
Yeah, very much so. I remember playing it in the computer lab back in my college days, and so being able to play it again, I'm playing it on Steam, being able to play it again is it's very nostalgic, it's very comforting. It takes me right back to those days trying to put off doing doing an essay. Yeah, good times. As for watching, though, I've mostly been watching, Daredevil Born Again? Mm-hmm. And then I watched Echo.
Oh, I've heard good things about that.
I should have done it the opposite way because technically Echo comes before chronologically Daredevil Born Again, and it does feed into. So I'd recommend watching Echo first and then Daredevil Born Again. But I still, not having seen Echo, didn't really diminish my enjoyment all that much for the Daredevil one. And I've got to admit, I don't know why it is, but somehow Daredevil just seems to be one of the most compelling of all the MCU.
Don't say that to me because I've broken up with the MCU. I can't go back.
It's terrible. It's garbage. And I regret the hours that I spent.
Thank you.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. No problem. But yeah. I'm sorry. Was there anything watching that you wanted?
I haven't really been watching anything particularly nerdy. I have been trying to catch up on Abbott Elementary, which is the most mainstream show on television right now. It's very good. It's very cute. But a lot of people have been talking about it and how it has sort of been very breakout hit in terms of network television, and about how a lot of things people talking about are streaming, but streaming still has a relatively smaller audience as opposed to regular cable television. And Abbott Elementary, even though it has some, sitcom tropes that it has to fall back into because it's not streaming and it doesn't have that flexibility, it's still a solid show. And I wanted to get into it, and I have been watching it, and I've been having fun.
Nice.
It's the most normie thing I watch.
Fantastic. Oh, man. Wilhelm, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. Thank you for reading through and being the hero. Now you can go back to your regularly heal-themed programming.
Time to find the nearest GameStop and burn it down.
Yes. Thank you also to all of you listeners out there for listening to this podcast. Be sure to leave a rating on a podcast platform that will allow you. And next week and subsequent weeks on Mondays at approximately 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central, you can watch us on twitch.tv/2nerdsandapod for the live show. But until we see you next time, be excellent to each other and keep it nerdy. Bye.
Bye.